because the management and transparency is what's very important. So once you submit a referral, you're going to have your own Home Advantage account, and it's going to tell you where everything sits. So if you have 10 referrals that you've sent into the network, it's going to give you all 10 referrals. It's going to tell you every milestone that that client is sitting in, whether they're touring homes, whether they're in escrow. And you now can manage through the Home Advantage application as far as what your pipeline looks like for the referrals that you've sent. And so it's pretty sophisticated, and it's all click of a button, guys.
LabCoatAgents podcast.
Sylvester Stallone, Jared Goff, The Miz, WWE superstar, wrestling superstar, Aaron Donald, Anthony Davis, Pete Sampras, Kobe Bryant, to just name a few of our guests today's clients in real estate. He is a brand relatively new author of a new book called The Agent's Edge, which we are going to talk about a lot today. He is the #1 Remax agent in the world, 6 years now, doing over 300 million in volume per year. I know if you're not familiar with that little company called Remax, that's over 144,000 agents that he's #1. He is an all-around impressive, humble, nice guy. Obviously, if you hadn't guessed it, based out of the Los Angeles market. And he's going to share his secrets today, because I know what you're thinking. This dude's got an advantage. Listen, folks, this dude made his advantages, and he's going to talk about that today. Welcome to the show, Jordan Cohen, man.
Man, Jim, that was powerful, bro. I can't tell you how much that was so sharp and quick. Man, thank you, buddy. So I have no words but gratitude, bro. That was an insane introduction. I'm very grateful for that and humbled by it. So thank you, man. That was
I
awesome.
tell you what, guys like you with resumes like you make it really easy to create sexy intros. So now you just got to back it up with sexy content. And so we're going to give it to him. But I want to start here because I mentioned it already. I want to know about your background. What got you into real estate, where you started, and kind of what led you to where you are today. I got to hear this story.
Okay, cool, man. So I went to college, right? And I grew up, but I cheated my way through. So by the way, I'm very real, bro. If I gonna bullshit or lie, I'm gonna be the truth. Please. So I cheated my way through school. I graduated with a 2.05 GPA. I have bad ADD, so I wasn't gonna be a doctor or a lawyer, but I wanted to finish what I started. So I did, and I literally graduated with a 2.05. So then when you're done with school, you kind of have to make the decision on what you want to do next, right? So I knew I'd go into sales because that was really the only thing that I thought I'd be good at. Because again, I'm 5'6.5". I'm not too good looking of a guy. I wasn't going to be anything special than that. And I certainly didn't have the education to take me into the professional field. So I was going to do either residential real estate or insurance. But at that time, I used to work out all the time, and I went to the gym, and there was a guy in the gym that would keep business cards in his sweat socks. And every time he'd come up to everybody, he'd go, "Hey, you doing, Jim, the insurance guy?" And everybody would kind of run away and flee. And I was one of those. So I go, I don't want to be that guy. Yeah. So then I went into real estate, and I had a little introduction into it. My parents sold real estate, but my dad owned a hamburger stand and then went into real estate later in age. My mom was a manicurist and kind of went into real estate later in age. But so I kind of knew some people in the real estate industry through them. But in those days, nobody was making, over $100,000 a year, and where I was from, that would have been like making millions of dollars today. So I went into real estate right out of college. So I graduated with that 2.05 GPA. I went into real estate because I didn't want to do insurance. Started off in entry level. I did everything my broker told me to do, Jeff. I door knocked. I farmed in an area called Canoga Park. Again, my average sales price was somewhere between $150,000 and $200,000 in the first 7 years. And I farmed. But then the funny story happened to me, Jeff, was I spent all this time with lead generation and farming and all this kind of cold calling. And then I actually got my first 2 cold listing appointments, which is something that realtors work so hard to get. Mm-hmm. But I didn't really know what to do and say in those listing appointments. Back then I called them listing appointments. Today, I call it a listing interview because you're interviewing for the job of working for somebody, right? So when I went in on those 2 listing interviews, I went in raw, man. I used Acura. I mean, actually at that time I used Honda Accord, with the aftermarket rims. I had a fake gold watch because I wanted to look the part, short sleeve dress shirt, tie with the big knot. Had my attaché case that was given to me for my bar mitzvah when I was 13 years old. So I walked in looking the part, Jeff. And then I fucked up. I didn't really know what to do or say in order to win. So I lost those 2 listings. Each one of those listings would have been $200,000, which would have paid me $6,000 each, which would have doubled my net worth, got me out of my parents' house, out of my childhood bedroom. So it hit me at that moment, like, man, that it all comes down to being able to compete and win against other real estate agents. So once I failed in those first 2 listings, I focused my life on becoming a better listing presenter and a better agent. Started winning. That's when my business took off. After about 7 years, pretty quick, after probably about 2 years, I became the top agent in my area, in my office in the North San Fernando Valley. And I was doing really well, making good money. Then I got my first pro athlete, which was referred to me. And I'd never even been in $1 million home at the time. Guy just signed with the Sixers, said, hey, why don't we look in Westlake Village? I said, yeah, man, Westlake. Remember, this was before the internet. So he goes, I go, yeah, Westlake Village. He goes, I think there's some great guard gated communities there. I said, some amazing guard gated communities. Jeff, I didn't even know where Westlake was. Never been there before, never heard of it.
It's not that far from Canoga Park either.
Yeah, but in different county though, right? Okay. So it's about an hour drive, with no traffic. So I said, okay, I better go out there and learn. But then what happened to me at that point was I realized I met all the realtors in Westlake at the time. They were all very nice. They were selling $1 million plus homes. I was selling at this time probably $200,000 to $300,000 homes. But when I met them, at first I was a little intimidated. I thought, man, they're going to be powerful. They're going to be dynamic. They're going to be sharp. But I realized at that moment, they were no different than me. In fact, I had more confidence in myself that I could compete and win. I did that $1 million deal. It was actually $1.5 million. It was like winning the lottery for me. It was a life changer to get that big paycheck. And I remember calling my wife on that big cell phone. I was about that big on the way home. And I told her, we just sold a home for $1.5 million. Like it was literally like winning the lottery. And I said, I think I can compete with these other realtors that are used to selling these.
Yeah.
So my wife supported me. We're still married today, 30 years later. My wife supported me and we packed up and moved, started all over. That was about 25 years ago. It's been a great run ever since. I'm sorry for talking too much. I just drank a giant passion fruit iced tea from Starbucks. So I'm fired up for this. I apologize about that.
No, there's no such thing. This is all about you. But I've got some questions. So first of all, who was the athlete?
Don McLean, UCLA's all-time scoring leader. He was my first athlete.
I was going to say you said the Sixers, which is Philadelphia, but that
he signed with the Philadelphia
lives Sixers. He lives in California, from California.
Yeah,
okay,
from
gotcha.
California. Yep.
Okay, so you packed. So first
that was
of all,
a game changer for me.
What year? What year was this?
I'm sorry. What's that?
What year was that?
25 years ago, something like that. 25
okay.
years ago. Yeah.
What was it that led to the referral to this athlete? How'd that happen?
Great question. So 2 of my best friends growing up were twin brothers named Dana and David Pump, P-U-M-P. Very powerful in the sports world. Very tied in with high school basketball, college basketball, tennis shoes, and they knew every player in the NBA. They were powerful guys and my age, early young. I ran into David at the airport. I hadn't seen him in 10 years. He goes, hey, man, I heard you're doing really good in real estate. I go, yeah, I heard, man, congratulations on all your success. Everybody knew that the Pump brothers were crushing. I sold them their home. It was a damaged home after the 94 earthquake. Got them a great deal. And they said, hey, I got a good one for you. Don McLean. That was a game changer for me because I'm a UCLA fan. So to get referred to the UCLA's all-time scoring leader was very exciting for me.
Wow.
So it came from the Pump brothers. So you never know where that introduction. And then after I sold Don, he introduced me to his agent, who was a big agent at the time, as big as you get, which was on Tellum. And that led to many, many superstar athletes, including Kobe and Vanessa. So that all came from one just kind of snowballed.
And part of the reason I asked that question is because there isn't like some silver spoon story here. This is just hard work, grinding, coming from nothing special. It's not like you grew up on the beaches of Malibu or anything like that. Even if you're not familiar with California, I mean, you're inland a ways. And you even mentioned it, that price point. Just for context, what is a home in Canoga Park on average sell for now?
I don't know. I haven't been over there to work, in many years, but my guess is 400,000, 500,000.
But that's a testament to the area, because even in today's world where that's like poverty in California, I mean, that's a very low priced home. So let me tell you, you know how I picked that as my farm? It's true story. My first listing. So I met my girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife, and we were college sweethearts for the last year of college. And then I got my real estate license, and her parents said they were going to move. They sell the house and retire, bought a home for $70,000 in a retirement community. And so she told her parents, hey, Jordan just got his license. We weren't even engaged or anything like that. Jordan just got his license. So they gave me their listing. Wow. So my first sale was my future in-laws house for $219,000. And I double-ended it from an open house. I mean, I fucked up. I made every mistake you can make on that first sale. I let the people move in before they even had loan approval. I didn't know the industry. I didn't know anything how they worked. And then they didn't get loan approval. And then it was a whole fiasco, crazy. They forgave me, and we've been married 30 years now since. Wow.
And that's how I got my first bonus. Man, my chair's falling here. Here we go. You see me okay? Okay.
Yeah, you're good. Yeah, I mean that's amazing. That's a great story, because that's reality, man. That is what you go through, and you live and learn, and I imagine even back then, 219, even though that's really, comparatively speaking, very small in California sense, but a double end for your first sale, like you were rich for a minute. Like that was a really good payday.
Yeah, I was rich until I took that money and bought the engagement ring. I took half. I paid taxes. I took $5,500 of that. I bought the engagement ring. That's
a good investment. A wise investment.
Yeah.
I love it. Okay, so you picked up and you moved when you realized you can swim in a different swimming pool. And where'd you move to?
But I moved to a city called Oak Park, which is right next to Westlake Village. I couldn't afford when I moved to. I had a cap. I wouldn't spend more than $500,000. So I was starting over. Which everybody thought was nuts, because at the time I was doing great. I was making like $400,000 a year, which was a ton of money 25 years ago. And I literally, I was armed with a great listing presentation. I felt I had great marketing, and I had all the tools to transition into the luxury market. So I packed up, but I was starting over, and we're in commission sales here. And I didn't have a big bank account full to carry me for a long time. So I bought a home for $500,000. I had two little kids at the time, I think 4 and 2. And we started over. But one of the reasons why I stayed in Oak Park for 25 years, and I loved it, man. Great people, amazing schools. The only reason why I actually just bought a home in Westlake 2 years ago, my kids are out of school now, but I always wanted to stay in Oak Park. I'm different than most realtors. I never want to live and work in the same town. I don't want to kiss ass when I'm home. I don't want to go get the mail and have to talk about real estate, or coach my son in his sports and have to kiss ass to the parents because they're potential clients. So I always chose to live and work in 2 different towns until now. Now I just bought a new home. I've been remodeling for a while, so in Westlake. But I don't know if that was even the question, man.
It was Oak Park was the answer, but now you're in Westlake. So that's really cool. I love that. That's like it's a true storybook type of story, right? I mean, that's it. You started in the slums, if you will, and moved your way on up and a real estate career. So for anybody listening to this that's new to real estate, I mean, that is the storybook. That is what's possible. And so now here you are, and I led this thing off, that intro, with a bunch of names that everybody recognizes. Maybe not, if you're not a sports fan, you didn't recognize all of them, but you've heard of Sylvester Stallone, you've heard of Rocky, you've heard of Kobe Bryant, right? And so, what led you? Obviously, it started with Don McLean, it started with the Pump Brothers, but obviously it wasn't probably just a snap of a finger. It was that first client. But what happened after that? And then what led you to the strategies where you are today?
Well, what happened after that to break in with the athletes, or what happened after that?
Just to break into Westlake, to become an agent in a market that you weren't in a price point that seemed out of touch or out of reach for you.
Okay. So what made me productive in my previous town in the San Fernando Valley, what made me have the skill set to compete and win, where I was calling expired listings all day, every day. I was sitting open houses every Saturday and Sunday with a different strategy. After a while, we can talk about that in a little bit. But my goal was to become a powerful listing agent, right? I believe in any city, any town, any state, the realtors that make the most money are listing agents, right? You want to have as many saleable listings as you can and let everybody else show them. But you want to show yourself, and it's more predictable to get your income. So once I created my listing presentation and practiced it all day, which I did with my wife for 6 months, by the way, after I failed on those 2 listings, she was my girlfriend at the time, I literally didn't even turn on a TV for 6 months. I was creating, practicing every night so I would never lose again. There's nothing pissed me off more was, investing a ton of money in marketing and then getting in front of somebody and being uncomfortable. So I didn't really know what to do or say, except talking about comps in the company I work for. So once I had confidence in my listing presentation, my business took off. So once I moved to the new town, I was already armed with my own presentation skills, or whatever you want to call them. And then I already knew how to geographical farm, but I elevated. So what I did was I tried to gather all the materials that the other agents that I competed with, what they were sending out, what they were doing, and I elevated. I tried to do everything bigger and better and more often. Again, I know a lot of realtors say, well, that must cost money. Nothing to me is spending money. It's investing in myself. So I believe if you have the skill set to compete and win, your profit center goes up, right, tremendously as you list and win. So I just wanted to get in front of people. So I elevated my marketing. I did some very unique specialty things to get in front of people. And then I competed and won, and business just took off.
So let's talk about some of those things. Let's rewind. Let me start with the farming, because that seems like that's where you started. That's what you were able to quote unquote perfect first.
And now.
Yeah. So what are some of the tips that you would give to somebody that you feel like are what create your differentiation or create your success with farming? Because farming's, it's a common word in our industry, and the ways you can farm are there are many. So what is it that you find to be the most dominant, or that make you the most dominant, or that work the best? Tell me more about your farming, what your strategies are.
Okay, so let's talk about that. So when I first moved out to Westlake, I knew nobody except Don. So I didn't know anybody. I was starting over. I was with a very small independent company called Todd C. Olson, which had one office in the San Fernando Valley. So when I moved out to Westlake, the first thing you think about is, well, I better switch to one of these big companies. But Todd said to me, hey, why don't I just open our own little satellite office out there? I said, great. Because I even knew then that if you have a great presentation, the company really doesn't matter as much as you. It's what you're doing and saying. I came up with language to beat agents that just talk about the company, which I write about in the book and everything. So I opened a little teeny office. It was just me. I couldn't afford an assistant or a receptionist. So then I started, how am I going to get established in my new geographical farm? So at first, I was going to farm in a different part of Oak Park, but I saw who was dominating that area. And it was a guy like me, Jeff. It was a young guy, Jewish guy. He was like looking in the mirror. I go, I don't want to compete with that. So let me pick an area that, is mainly dominated by people that don't look, females or whatever, different age brackets. So at the time, North Ranch there was nobody like me. There was no young, aggressive guys like me. So I chose that. But everybody thought I was nuts about that too, because there were powerful realtors doing very well. But again, I had confidence in myself that if I can get through. So the first thing I did was I said, how am I going to open some eyes? So I literally wrote an introduction letter, and it was long. It was like that long. but it gave parts of my listing presentation. And then with this introduction letter, I wanted it to look like it was to each person individually. So I hired a young kid. Everything was hand signed. There was 1,000 of them. Every envelope was handwritten, addressed. There was no bulk mail. It was, I spent all my money, invested my money, first class stamps. And I also included a sheet of very readable comps, each one individually printed out of a printer. So it didn't look like it was Xerox copied. I bought the best linen envelopes. And then I wrote on the bottom of each envelope, recent comps enclosed. And then you would open it up. You had a long letter addressed to Mr. Fitzer, Mr. Johnson, telling a little bit about myself. I'm not new in real estate, but I'm new in the area. This is some of the stuff I do different than other realtors. I hand signed each one and I sent that out with comps that were readable. Didn't say LPSQ, said listing price per square foot. So remember, in these days, there was no realtor.com. In the MLS, they didn't have photos of the houses. So it wasn't like it would be easy today where you can see a photo of every house. Yeah. It was just the addresses. So I mailed those to 1,000 things. And I remember my broker at the time said, I said, what do you think of this? He goes, no one's going to read that long letter. It's too long. I go, it only takes one. So I actually got 3 listing appointments from that.
No way.
And I competed and I won all 3. And I remember one even saying to me, said, how did you know I was thinking about selling my home? And I go, man, this was a good piece. But again, I had a good presentation, man. And it didn't matter what company I worked for. I had my language set. I believe enthusiasm is contagious. Mm-hmm. I believe confidence is contagious. So I had those things when I sat in front of somebody. And then I was off to the races. Got my first listing, had a broker's open house, which I don't do anymore, but I did then. And then I wore a suit. I had a coffee cart. Figured this was a good chance for me to meet the other realtors. And all the realtors were very nice, except for one lady. She was kind of a bitch. And I competed with her. And I remember her coming up to me and she said, how did you get this listing? Are you friends with them? Do you know them? Remember, nobody knew who I was. Nobody knew my name. Nobody even knew my company. I said, no, I competed. I knew they interviewed a couple of realtors and I won. It's nice to meet you. I'm excited to get to know everybody. And she kind of go, you must be friends with them. Kind of turned, flew her hair back. And I remember saying, boy, she just fucked with the wrong cowboy. Like it just lit a fire in me, man. So that's when I go, I'm going to do whatever I got to do to get a lot of interviews and win. So I elevated everything. Better mailers, all that kind of stuff. In fact, if you want to hold a second, I'll go get it like an example of what I send out now and hold it if you want to do that.
It doesn't matter necessarily because most people are going to listen to this.
Okay.
I tell you what, though, if you could maybe have your assistant email me or text me a copy of it, we'll put a link to it in the show notes so they can actually go. You can go to the show notes on the podcast and take a look at it if that's okay.
We'll figure it out.
Okay, cool. I'll guide her. I'll guide Paige on that.
Awesome. So that's what we did basically at that point, and then start spiraling. I send out the best just listed you can. I wanted to do things a little bit differently to this day. I don't put my picture on anything. I don't ever want to sell. That's kind of my shtick is I'm trying to sell the house, not myself.
Yeah.
So everything is about the house, the house, the house. My goal is to have people say to me, you sure represent your listings well. So none of the ads I do, nothing I do is corny. The way I look at it is anytime a doctor or a lawyer puts their pictures on business cards and things like that, I'll do that. So I try to do very professional and everything I do is about the house. Put my name on it in a professional way. But even my logo, everything is tried to look at in a very classy way. Started getting listings. And then I came up with the idea of doing testimonials. So then when I would sell a home, I would get the seller to do an epic testimonial on my just sold. So the way I looked at it is, for example, Nike pays Anthony Davis, LeBron James, anyway, Michael Jordan, millions of dollars to wear their shoes. Yep. So I looked at it, if you can get a homeowner in an area, in a geographical area, to say, hey, we interviewed 3 realtors. We went with Jordan Cohen. He exceeded our expectations. He showed the home himself every time, got us our price. Couldn't have been better. We highly recommend him. Mr. and Mrs. Johnson, seller of 1234 Viking Avenue. It's like really good. So I started doing those a lot. And that just all of it started snowballing to a point now where I get
well, and fast forward to today, where if you go follow Jordan on Instagram, it's Jordan Cohen, COHEN 1, the number 1. You'll notice that, and when I first met you, when we first talked, I was like, your Instagram, like I don't see your face anywhere, which I want to ask you about that in a second, because it kind of goes against what really the industry has really gone towards, which is very, you got to show yourself, especially with social media marketing and blah, blah, blah. You're obviously very different in that regard. But the one thing I did notice on your Instagram, it's a sexy houses galore. Like you're going to go down a rabbit hole of just looking at amazing houses. But when you see people, it's like right off the bat, Jared Goff doing a testimonial, Sylvester Stallone doing a testimonial. It's The Miz doing a testimonial. And so it looks to me like you've taken that strategy that you used 25 years ago. Now you've evolved it. You're just picking up I've watched these videos. They just grab the phone, they talk, they're standing right next to you. They do a quick testimonial, you post your Instagram. Like that's probably just gold.
I never thought about it like that. They're just doing it right now to kind of help me out for my book promotion, right? Sure. So which is badass, man. It's amazing. But it's what you said is very true. I'm not trying to do. I built my Instagram myself. I do it myself. I don't have a social media manager or anything like that. So you got to know your audience. Like my advice to anybody trying to build their Instagram. I'm not an Instagram expert by any means, but know your audience. So my audience gives 2 shits about my kids, my wife, me at on the beach. They don't care about anything like that. And I learned that through trial and error. I could post a picture of an epic house until these new, algorithms, which kind of messed me up. But at the time I was getting like 20,000 likes on every post, before they switched that. I would find that I would get massive engagement on a sick house. And then I could post a picture with me and my kids or me and a celebrity, and I would get barely any in comparison. So I realized through trial and error that the people that follow me for real estate. I also always put the price on it, whether I sold it for or what I listed for. No gimmicks, no, price available upon request. I don't do any of that, hokey bullshit. For me, it's about, hey man, so people that follow me are going to get a glimpse into LA real estate. Because if I follow a realtor from out of state, I'm curious what those houses look like and how much they are. So again, through trial and error to make my page look really good. I also shoot all my listings at dusk. I don't just shoot in the day. So I want to make them pop. Part of my listing presentation, I have very creative language to use that. But yeah, my Instagram is about selling the house. And I have a language for it on how to win in listings rather than just say, I have 500,000 followers. It's about how that's going to benefit a seller. So everything is geared towards that. Everything I do is geared towards having listing tools to compete and win, because that's where I make money.
Yeah. And by the way, he's got 527,000 followers. But you know what? You mentioned something that I actually failed to mention in the intro, which is very, very important. Jordan does all of this without a team. Like he just mentioned, he manages his own Instagram, which is very unique. That's what makes Tristan and I unique in the social space, because we're still very active. We're still pushing the buttons, which most successful people aren't anymore. They hire people to do it for them. That's a unique trait, but I'm not even going to focus on the social side of things. I'm going to focus on the real estate side of things. And I do want to go back to the listing presentation, but because I failed to mention it, I want to bring it up. You don't have a team. That's dude, 300 million, number 1 in Remax. You don't have a team. That sounds hokey.
Yeah, no, I'm very lucky. My average sales price is $4 or $5 million. So I'm lucky that way. And I'm not a discount broker. Like my broker will tell you, I'm not a discount. I believe if you give a unbelievable listing presentation, you don't have to be a discount agent, right? Yeah. So I'm not a discount agent, but I'm very proud of the numbers that I do. There's no question about it. I'm lucky, but yeah, I don't have a team, no buyer's agent, no other realtors sell a single house where I get a piece of their deal. I'm very proud of that. In fact, I fight for that, when the Remax does their rankings, because nothing bothers me more than having somebody that goes into a category in any of it, real trends, any of those, where they go into the individual category. And I know they're not really individuals.
They've got a team all putting them in their name.
Yeah. So I'm the opposite of that. I'm a
I love that,
competitive
man.
guy. I think in order to be a great real estate agent, you have to be competitive. So I like to compete on the same level with the, other people. So yeah.
How many units do you do per year?
2 years ago, I did 79. I double ended about 15. So that counts as 2, each one of those.
Mm-hmm.
And I think last year I did, maybe around 55 or 60. I was on pace until the market dropped. I was on pace to even surpass the other. But for me in my life right now, I don't want to sell 100 homes, Jeff. I'd rather sell 50 in bigger priced ones. It's a little bit less work. So my goal isn't to list as many as I can.
But let's be honest, you are the epitome of what most agents want to be. You occasionally meet an agent who truly loves being a buyer's agent, but in reality, 80 to 90% of any real estate agent, if given the opportunity, if they had 2 paths and you can choose, but you can only choose one, they're going to choose the listing side. I mean, that's just the way it is. You said at the beginning, it's the facts, it's the reality. And so you epitomize what most agents want to be, which is, I don't necessarily want to scale a big team. I don't want to babysit a bunch of human beings. I want to work for myself. I want to work smarter, not harder. I want to be efficient, but I want to make a lot of money doing it. Right. And you do that. And so let's circle back to the listing presentation, because it sounded to me that you're fairly self-taught. And now I want to go back to the beginning and then fast forward to today. You went into 2 listings, dressed up, faked it, faked the look, proved that didn't necessarily matter because you fumbled the ball based on what you probably said. And then you went back and you learned and you improved. What did that look like? What did that improvement look like?
Okay. So what I did was I was very uncomfortable on those first 2 listing appointments because I didn't really, except for talking about comps, which nobody really wants to just sit there and talk about. You have to talk about what you do over and above everybody else, and how you're going to maximize the exposure of the home and things like that I say now. So I was very uncomfortable. So I went to a ton of seminars in the beginning. I went to a ton of them. I went to all the famous trainers, and, they would do like panelists and all that kind of stuff. So they would have a panel of these supposedly top real estate agents, and you'd have 1,000 agents in the audience idolizing these agents. So there was one guy in particular, and I'd seen him a couple of times as a panelist, and he supposedly sold 300 homes a year, drove a Rolls Royce. His suit was worth more than what I had in my bank account. And I was one of those realtors that after the break, he would come out and talk to, the mere mortals like me, just the regular agents, and everybody would like kiss his ass. He was a rock star. But one of the things he said during the seminar is he said, once I get into, all I do is spend 10 hours a day prospecting. I door knock all day, every day. And once I get into a deal, whether I represent the buyer or the seller, I never talk to the other agent. I dish it off. I don't even talk to my clients. I dish it off to coordinators and assistants. And then all I do is prospect. And that's how you make money. And I was like clapping like everybody. But then what happened, this is an interesting story. It's a true story. I actually tell this story in the book. After the 94 earthquake in Northridge, I was able to buy a few flippers, AKA flipping, right? So I bought one for $50,000 in a city called Arleta. I put $10,000 into it, and I listed it for $99,000. I had multiple offers, and one of the offers came from that rock star real estate agent. And man, I got nervous, Jeff. I was like, oh shit, I'm going to be able to learn from this guy. Man, I got excited. He was an icon, even though he wasn't a member of the MLS. So nobody really was able to really monitor what those numbers were. But I had heard from these seminars that he was the greatest of all time. So then and him and his wife, they were very nice, make no mistake. But then when we got into the escrow, they called every day. The wife, every single day, it was like this and that and the other. And this was a $99,000 transaction. I remember going, man, this isn't what I heard at the seminar. Like they were never calling. So then at the end of the deal, I remember meeting with the wife, like the key exchange. And I said, I got to ask you a question. They were nice. Everything was great. And I said, I go to these seminars and I saw her smile start to come. I go, you talk about, like your husband talked about, like he never talks to the other realtor, never. But boy, and she kind of laughed and goes, don't always believe everything you hear at a seminar. It's about the show, And I went, wow, never went to another seminar again. Lost all credibility. And at that moment, I said, I'm going to do my own shit. So I started creating my own language, my own tactics, my own scientific method, what I'm going to say, how I'm going to say it, what order am I going to say it, who am I going to look at in the interview, how was my body language. So I started creating my own stuff and practicing that all day, every day. And that's when my business took off. When I started doing my own stuff.
Is there anything specific that you would say? So let's just say, again, I'm sure there's some listeners right now that, may be new to real estate, maybe have never even had a listing, probably feel the same way as you do. I mean, that's normal. Everybody, when you have to make a sales call, it's nerve-wracking. We don't come out of the womb as natural salespeople. It's something that we acquire and practice, will help make you more perfect, probably never perfect, but better. Right. And so what would you say would be a tip that you'd give to somebody who says, man, yeah, I get nervous as hell when I walk into a listing. What are some things that I can do to practice and improve and become more like Jordan?
I don't want to sound like a corny sales guy, but in my book, which I'm so proud of, I made the commitment to write my presentation. I have 7 chapters just on my presentation.
Love it.
It's way too much for me to just kind of talk about it.
Yeah.
But I'll give a few things, like if you want.
Yeah, perfect.
But yeah, I give real, I'm very proud, right? Inman just did a review on it and they raved about it. Like I'm so incredible. I can't wait to send you a book, man, because I think you'll get it after you read it. Like I pour my heart and soul into it. Because like I said earlier, I think that's the most important skill somebody can have. Every realtor is going to door knock, cold call, sit open houses. But if you don't have a listing presentation, if somebody says to you, do you have a great listing presentation? If your answer is, I don't know, but if it's great, you can make it great, right? Because once you're great at that, cold calling and prospecting becomes fun. If you don't have when I used to cold call, and before I had a good listing presentation and I'd call an expired, I kind of would always say the same thing I would say now, I don't do it anymore, is, are you planning on interviewing agents for the job of selling your home? If they would say, well, we're kind of already going to be going with another realtor, but thanks anyway, I would say, okay, thanks. Once I had a great listing presentation, I would push for that interview. Interview me. Give me 20 minutes to show you what I do different. Blah, 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 blah. So if you don't have a great presentation, real estate's not very fun and it's not very predictable. So my listing presentation is very scientific. From the minute I walk in the door, from the opening tour to what I'm going to say from the minute you said how you overcome the company objection, what company you're going to work for. So there's set language. I just don't know how I'd be able to say it here. I'll give one good strategy that doesn't cost anything that I'll say. I'll say, Mr. Seller, the job of a realtor is to maximize the exposure of the property, to get as many people as humanly possible to become aware of your home. Then at that point, to get them excited, screen them, vet them, get them in the home, and then get them to make the commitment to buy it. And then I'll say something like this. I go, kind of like a sports agent or a movie agent. A good sports agent is behind the scenes. They're on the phone all day, every day, promoting their client. The stars, the athletes, they want that off the field money. They want Subway, they want Pizza Hut. So a good sports agent is on the phone every day trying to get their clients that deal. I'm the same thing. I'm a real estate agent. The difference is your house is my star. I'm going to be on the phone all day, every day, promoting your house to get people excited. It's the same philosophy. I'm a real estate agent, unlike a sports agent, but your house is my star. So I came up with that. That's just one really good tip that any real estate agent can use. It's relatable, powerful. I give about 100 of those in my book because you never know what you're going to say, what you're going to do, how you're going to say it, the tonality that is going to resonate with the seller to get that seller to hire you versus somebody else. Again, if I'm talking too fast or too much, blank Starbucks. Blank that.
No. It's actually it's wonderful, and I love the that you even mentioned that. Again, I'm going to mention it. We're gonna plug it hard at the end here. The Agent's Edge. We're going to plug exactly where to get it, but the thing that I'm hearing from you consistently is that you focused on differentiation. And I think especially in today's world where you mentioned seminars. I mean, I love that you said that because the real estate industry is so inundated, diluted with seminars and webinars and events. And you said, I'm not going to just go follow, I'm going to make my own. And And in this world of social media where it's all about, I see somebody wearing X, I'm going to wear X. I see somebody using X filter, I'm going to use X filter. Like we're such a copycat world. I love what you're saying, because I think if somebody's going to take anything away from this, which they're going to take a lot more than just one thing, but it's that, like, you got to, if you really want to succeed at a higher level, you can't be afraid to be different.
Great point. Great point. Yeah.
I mean, I love all of that. So,
but you got to be confident, man.
I was going to say enthusiasm, confidence, the two things you said
are contagious, man. So if you're in front of somebody and you're confident, everybody wants I want my accountant to be confident. I want my doctor to be confident. I don't want my neck surgeon to be, unsure of himself or his own skill set. So my mind is, that's the way to, but I'm not a motivator. My book isn't a motivating book. I say it in my introduction. I'm not going to tell anybody to drink carrot juice or exercise or dress for success, because I don't do any of that shit. I don't know what a vision board is. I don't know any technology. Like, for me, I'm not going to try to motivate anybody. In my book, and what I'm talking about today is trying to give back a little, like try to give actionable items to help somebody compete and win, which leads to being a better prospector, lead generator, if you have the basics of being able to know that you can compete and win. I don't know if that's making sense.
No, I love it. The last question I'm going to ask before we talk a little bit about the book and wrap it up is there any tips that you would give anyone for, trying to raise their confidence level? Because again, that's also something that some people are just born with, but most of us are not. And so we lack that confidence, but it can be learned. It can be acquired. And so what would be a piece of advice that you would give a new agent, a struggling agent, to kind of raise their confidence level? Because you're right. That is it's contagious, and someone's going to sense it or sense the lack of, right?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the way my confidence level got up was I practiced. So once I created my language, my girlfriends, my wife, I promise this is the truth. She'll tell you. I made a commitment to myself not to watch TV for 6 months. Once I committed that I'm going to sell real estate full time, I wanted to be the best I could and take advantage of every opportunity. So I practiced it. I had objections on the refrigerator door. I even would practice knocking on the door. Like, thank God my wife stuck with me. No, that was, I wouldn't want to date somebody that made me practice my listing presentation every day, but we're kind of like, kind of committed to what was going to happen, right? So to practice it. So to first come up with it, I wouldn't spend all your life on lead generation until you know what to do when you're in front of somebody, right? Spend that same time practicing. Get up every morning, pick another agent in your office, give each other listing presentations, give each other. My goal on every listing I give is to not just have the client want to hire me, but to have them feel they need to hire me in order to get their goals accomplished. At the end of a presentation, if I could say, do you have any questions? And they say, no, you answered all of them. I know I delivered a great presentation. So the objections are the same in what we do. The questions are the same. So I tried to answer them in my presentation. And again, once you can deliver that, it's almost embarrassing for a seller to say, oh God, when they need you. What's your commission? Are you going to discount your commission? And I have language for how to protect your commission too. I give that in the book. I have a whole chapter on that, like how to secure your full commission. You want me to give you that now? I don't want you to.
No. Here's what I want to ask you. First of all, what do you get paid? What is your commission rate that you refuse to go down from when you're selling a $5 million house?
Yeah, I don't refuse anything. Pigs get fat, hogs get slaughtered. But what I'm able to secure, I don't want to sit here and say I never have to cut because I look dumb. But 95% of my deals are kind of the same. If it's a past client or a friend, it's different, right? But on a cold listing interview where they interview 3 agents, 95% of my listings are at the full commission, which in California is 5%. So I'll just tell you how I do it, right? The chapter. So the way I handle that, if a seller asks me what my commission is, which is a good question, I'm very strategic with how I answer that question. Again, coming up with confidence. Mr. Seller, that's a great question. I would ask the same thing. My commission is 5%, 2.5% to the buyer side, 2.5% to me, which is what I earn. However, if I represent both sides, which I do all the time, I'm happy to adjust it to 4%. You save money, I make a bonus, we both win. So notice how I said that. I say 5%, I want them to hear it, but I want them to listen to the 2.5 and 2.5. Very strategic. I'll say 5%, 2.5 to the buyer side, 2.5 to me, which is what I earn. And then if I represent both sides, happy to do it for 4%. You save money, I make a bonus, we're both happy. The goal at that is for them to say, boy, I hope you sell it yourself. Now you might ask, why do I even have to come down to 4%? Honestly, it's to protect my 2.5. I'm giving them that little thing at the end of what I say, so they feel good about that. But I want them to hear the 2.5. A lot easier to swallow 2.5 versus just hitting 5% on a $5 million home, which is $250,000.
Yeah.
So I think if I said that, well, it's 5%, I have a feeling I would be a discount agent at that point. So I say it with confidence, conviction. Obviously, you've heard me say that a million times. It's almost difficult for somebody to say, well, will you do it for 4.5? And then if they do, listen, at the end of the day, we have a business decision we need to make.
Yeah. I love it. And that's going to be all relative to your market. So, California, again, you're selling high-end homes. If you're selling 250 homes in the Midwest, and the average commission is 6-7%, get it, go get it. Get what you can basically, I think what you're saying, Jordan, is it doesn't matter what market you're in, whatever it is that your time is worth is what you should, for lack of a better term, command. Like it is what you should get, and you shouldn't question it. You should just be confident in it. I love that.
So let me tell you, part of my presentation, I don't talk about price or commission till the very end. In the very beginning, the way I was trained was to talk about the price in the very beginning, because I was taught at those seminars that if you can't agree on the price, get out of there. You have 4 more presentations to give. There's no sense wasting an hour of your time with an illogical seller. But what would happen is I would find that I did that because I followed those seminars to a T. And then I would see that same house come on the market at a reasonable price. And I said, why wasn't I able to convince them of the regular price? And I realized I wasn't giving them any reason to even believe me, to even have credibility. So I switched on my own to give my presentation first, give my marketing, show them that they're like, man, this guy, he's something else. This guy's great. Then they're going to listen to me more about the price. So I do everything I can not to talk about the price or my commission at the end. If I just talked about the commission in the beginning, it'd be very easy for them to just move on to the next realtor and go with a discount agent. But I want to give them what I do, the marketing that I do. I want them to be like one of my best closes. I want you to be as confident in me as I am in myself, that I'm the best real estate agent out there, that I'm the one that's going to be able to get you your price or more. I want you to be as confident in me as I am in myself. That's the language that I use. But if you don't give a good presentation, it's pretty hard to say that stuff.
And you, like you said, I mean, I think you talk a lot about this, a hell of a lot more in depth in the Agent's Edge. What it says on the book, and those of you that buy it, the secret strategies to win listings and make your fortune selling real estate. I think, Jordan, one of the things that I think is so valuable in this interview, in this conversation, is, beyond the sizzle, beyond the fact that, what you've been able to do and work with professional athletes and movie stars and things like that, is that, you're very normal. Like, you come across as one of us. And I love that about you, because this industry is, I don't know you personally. We met a few months ago virtually. We've only talked on the phone and via Zoom, but I can sense it. And somebody in your position, number one Remax agent in the world. We're not talking like some mom and pop brand here, folks. We're talking Remax. And the way I think you articulate this is so relatable. I want to ask you one last question before we tell them where to go buy the book. You could write your ticket anywhere. Why Remax?
I love it. To be honest with you, listen, we're all independent. This is what I say on a presentation. I came up with this language when I was with a small independent company. I say, Mr. Seller, we're all independent contractors. Are you aware of the fact that as independent contractors, we could work wherever we want to? In fact, when you're a productive, highly productive real estate agent, we get recruited, we get offered money and deals and opportunities to pick up and leave. Are you aware of that? I try to get them to realize that we are independent contractors and we could work anywhere. I had to come up with that in the very beginning because I would compete against the big boys. And if I just said I worked for a small independent company and I talked so much about that, I was going to lose. So I wanted to reel it in as an independent. We're all independent contractors. We can work. And basically, what I say is we're all unrestricted free agents. We can work wherever we want to, whenever we want to, and get signing bonuses to leave. But let me tell you why I chose the company that I work for. And then, in all honesty, I dig Remax, man. I think I like the leadership. I like Nick Bailey, the CEO. I like my broker. Honestly, I'm a very loyal guy. Been married for 30 years. It's the only company I worked for. When it was Todd C. Olson, the company I worked for about 20 years ago, maybe a little bit longer, he said, hey, would you mind if I merged into the Remax brand? I said, I don't care, man. I'm building my own brand, my own name, my own thing. You can go and call it whatever you want. I don't even care. So he merged into Remax. If it's not broke, don't fix it. But in all honesty, I kind of dig being able to say we're in over 100 countries. There's 144,000 of us, kind of family atmosphere, working hard. So I it translates all our listings in over 100 different languages. So it's kind of a cool thing. But I also reel in people. I don't talk a lot about the company on a listing presentation. Like I say, I'm proud of the company I work for. I like the fact we're the biggest company in the world, but Mr. Max isn't going to be the one showing your property. Mr. Max isn't going to be the one marketing your company. That's me. So I say that because if somebody's with a different company and they're just talking about the company, I don't want them to think that it's all about the company. Did I answer your question?
Yeah. I mean,
but I dig it, man. I got my own little office back here. I got my own parking space. I could call the CEO at any time. He's going to pick up. He's awesome. The marketing, they're supporting my book. Like they're emailing me. I love it, man.
Well, in the competitive world that we're in, and all the new brokerages and the cloud-based brokerages, and I'm not even technically in real estate, so I'm as agnostic as they come. I love asking that question because it is important to know that it's first of all the reasoning why, but second that it's not the name on your shirt. It's you as the individual. You're going to make your own. Find your people, and dude, like your loyalty is commendable. Like that's. Barely exists anymore. And so that I think will speak a lot to your character as well. So I love to hear it, man. So at the Agent's Edge, we've talked about it. I assume, they get it on Amazon. Where are we going to buy this book?
Thank you for saying that, man. I appreciate that, Jeff, because I'm very passionate about this book. So I'm a very competitive guy, like I said earlier. So I have this raging goal, this fire in my belly to become a best-selling author. So you want me to tell you how the book came about?
Please.
So I sold a home. He was a big agent with CAA, Creative Artists Agency. It's a client of mine. Sold him a big home in North Ranch and then sold his existing home in the Hollywood Hills. Awesome guy. Said to me, hey, man, you're so good at this. You got to write a book. I've thought about that. Because you ever thought about it? I go, yeah, for like 20 years, but I don't know how to write, he goes, hey, can I connect you with our literary agent, one of our literary agents? So I said, yeah. So I had a Zoom with the literary agent at CAA. Amazing guy. His name is Anthony Matero. Anthony says to me, we'd like to represent you. That was a big win. At that point, I really didn't give a shit about writing a book. I was just excited to tell my wife that I'm an agent, like what you said before about me being a real dude or whatever. Jeff, we're real estate agents. We're not doctors. Most of us didn't go to college. It's like, there's no reason to be anything, but we're realtors, man. We're not school teachers. We don't mold young minds. Like we're nothing really that important. We have a good service. We help people move, but I'll never let my head get big, man, because there's nothing to be big about. I'm good at what I do or whatever, but no reason to be something fancy because I'm not a fancy guy. So I'm proud that I'm grateful that you said that earlier.
I love it, man. So best place to get it. Where can we get it?
Oh, so anyway, so CAA signed me. Then I wrote a treatment, what the book would look like. I had multiple offers and I signed with HarperCollins Leadership, who's like an amazing publisher. So that's how the book is. The book is available right now on pre-order. It hits June 6th. So it's ready to go. It hits like, I hope we get this thing out, man. But it's on pre-order. If you go on jordancohen.com/book, if you forget the /book, just go on jordancohen.com and it's right on there to click and pre-order it. And you can order it on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Target, Walmart, and a dozen other stores, online stores. It should be in most bookstores, I'm hoping. Airports. I'm pretty fired up, man.
Dude, that's cool, man.
My legacy, bro.
I'm happy for you, dude.
I want to be a bestseller, man. I want to be a bestseller.
I have no doubts. Probably by June 15th, you'll already have achieved that, if not sooner. Jordan Cohen. So it's Jordan, like Michael Jordan, last name COHEN.com/book. This will come out. This episode will be right around then, maybe a little, probably right around the release, if not a little after even, because it's right. We're right around the corner here. I forget where we are.
Yeah.
We're recording this at the end of May. So this is exciting, man. It's fun. I'm glad we got to do this. This has been an incredible conversation. I look forward to staying in touch, and I can't wait to get the book. You've got my address.
I'm going to overnight it today. Boom.
I love it. I love it. Folks, jordancohen.com/book, or just go check him out. Go to his Instagram. It's Jordan Cohen, the number 1. I promise you're going to go down a rabbit hole, because it's actually, it's a unique page actually. And you do it differently. You do it well, and you do it yourself. Folks, you're going to learn so much from Jordan. And if you do nothing else, get that book, because dude, I want to learn from the best, and we all should want to learn from the best. You're the best, and it's been an honor, brother.
Bro, I have no words, man. Thank you, Jeff, man. I'm honored. In all these years, I have a face for radio. I don't really have a face for camera, TV. I don't do selfie videos, none of that shit. So for me to come and be on a podcast like yours means the world to me, man. Thank you.
Awesome. Appreciate you, brother.
Appreciate you, man. Thank you.
LabCoatAgents Podcast.